So I follow a Facebook page called Alternative Left, and they posted this. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh my god, I'm being mentioned. Oh my god, I'm in the thumbnail of this video. Apparently we've become the new SJWs. I don't think these people know what an SJW is. It's not someone you disagree with. It's someone who will try and ruin you for disagreeing with them. They are moral authoritarians. That's basically the best way to describe the alt-left. Not the alt-left, sorry, the SJWs. That's not how... I don't think Dave Rubin does this. And I know I don't do this. But the problem is you're concerned more about the right, aren't you? Well, I'm sorry, I just don't see the right as being a threat to Western civilization at the moment. If the right had been completely taken over by the alt-right, if the alt-right steamrolled right-wing politics, Donald Trump was it was Jared Taylor who'd taken over the Republican Party, and they'd taken office and they were starting to do all the kinds of things that they would love to do. Holy fuck, dude, I would be doing nothing but videos about it, but that's not happening, is it? Donald Trump's barely keeping on. They've been doing everything they can to unseat him this whole time. It's been a hell of a struggle for Trump. But okay, let's check out your video. Anti-SJWs are the new SJWs. Let's do this.
Okay, the pressure's on to make a good impression, because I know some of you motherfuckers will have already disliked before I finish this sentence. Anyway, my goal with this video is simply to point out some of the hypocrisy in the anti-SJW community.
Okay, but hypocrisy isn't the problem. Everyone's a hypocrite to some degree. Hypocrisy is not what makes an SJW an SJW. So why did you call us the new SJWs? Clicks. Right, gotcha. That's why my face would be in there as well. Okay,
what began as a liberal backlash against social justice
is still a liberal backlash against social justice. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Carry on.
Kind of morphed into what is essentially a conservative safe space.
But how is that like the SJWs? Even if that's true, and I don't actually think that it is, but even if that was true, that's not the same problem. No one was criticising the SJWs because they wanted to go off and have chats about far-left ideology in their own safe spaces. Nobody gives a shit if they do that. The problem is they won't leave other people alone.
There hasn't been a greater validation in my mind recently of the idea that as social movements grow, they eventually reach a critical mass, which makes them go to shit. And I think that you can see this in a lot of different areas. You know, when anything appeals to a large amount of people, it's inevitable that in order to stay on top, you have to start catering to the lowest common denominator. If we can agree that the average person is stupid, then...
I don't think we can agree that the average person is actually average intelligence. That's what makes them average. And I don't agree that you have to start pandering or anything. You just keep doing what your conscience determines that you do. Especially when you're backed by crowdfunding. You can just do what you think is right. And luckily for me, my audience has kind of stuck with me, and I don't know what I'd do differently, to be honest. I figure that's why they stuck with me, because I'm doing what I think is right, and not what they think is right. I mean, I'm glad that many of them agree, but at the end of the day, why would you even worry about this? This to me, this is the sort of the wrong-headed approach to success. In my opinion, you keep working at the thing that made you successful and you become the best at it. Or at least try to become the best at it. Because that's what made you successful. Worrying about, I very rarely put tags on my videos. I just generally forget because I'm shit. You know, it's not like my setup's good or anything like that. But I worry about the things that I'm saying and whether I'm correct or not. And how, accurately my philosophy models the world and describes what I would believe to be the conception of the good, but you think the average person's an idiot. I give them more credit than that. Go on.
And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. With the anti-SJW community, I think as more and more people jumped on the bandwagon, the audience pool became skewed farther and farther to the right.
It was never exclusively left-wing. And maybe, the audience has got more right-wing over time. Who knows? I mean, people's political positions aren't just fixed in stone. I mean, I have moved further to the centre than I was from the left. Honestly, because I think the left is it's just such a disgusting thing at the moment. The way it treats people. I don't want people calling me a left-winger. You know, I'm a centrist. I'm not a right-winger either. And that's not that I don't actually see the term right-winger as being as shameful as the left would have you believe. It's just, for me, not accurate. I mean, no one would confuse me with Ben Shapiro when it came to my policy choices, my life choices, my social choices. You know, so it... And there's no right-winger watching this is going to go, yeah, Sargon's a right-winger. He's definitely one of us. But they are going to say, I have disagreements with Sargon, but on a principle level, on what we are doing as a civilization and the way we should run our nations, I would rather sit in a room with a centre-lefty like Sargon than a far-lefty like any socialist or any intersectional social justice warrior. Because I'm not going to try and fuck their lives up over a discussion. I actually believe in that thing, but I mean, I'm not saying you don't. I'm sure you do. You're like the alt-left. You're angry at the SJWs too because they cucked you, and they didn't cuck us. They tried, but we're now the insurrection. But I guess now we're the new SJWs. Quick, we're going to stop you from doing everything that you do. Censor this man. Block him. Exactly. Do you see how silly that sounds? Create block bots for the alt-left. Like, come on.
And became a way for conservatives to take the high ground, so to speak.
You gave it away. The left absolutely gave away the high ground when it started opposing free speech. When it started opposing like racism and sexism and then just claiming special privileges. Oh, well, we can't be sexist or racist. Have some special pleading on our part. You know, come on, man.
Because SJWs are objectively stupid.
Yeah, but it's not just SJWs. Socialists are objectively stupid. Like, anyone who thinks that socialism is a viable political position is a lunatic who doesn't care about reality and the actual like consequences of their ideology. They don't care. We can actually measure the difference, the difference in weight gain between socialist countries and capitalist ones, the life expectancy, the just quality of life, the healthcare. Name something. Fucking name a metric. Do you want to bring up literacy rates? That was always one of my favourite ones that socialists bring up. Oh, but the literacy rate in Cuba. Oh yeah, that's one of the major problems of the capitalist West. Nobody can fucking read. I want to be able to agree with some of the things you guys say, but like the problem is a lot of the things you guys say are just fucking wrong. But I agree that you're talking about people and demographics and areas of society that do need help. You know, that do need aid. But we just can't do it in the way that the Marxists want to do it. It doesn't work. As soon as you start conceptualizing the world as oppressor and oppressed, then as soon as you start thinking the rich are holding down the poor, then you have a problem. I mean, and I'm not saying there are no fucking problems either. That's one of the major fucking points that I have to try and get across. Like, look, right, I was talking about the effect of predatory multinational corporations and neoliberal ideology way before I had to talk about SJWs. You know, that was one of the first things. One of my earliest videos was called Better Than Slavery. And I'd done like a rough approximation of the wages, because I mean, it's really hard to compare like wages for, you know, like the amount you earn as a Roman to the amount you earn now in Britain or something. It's really hard to do. But what I did is just as a sort of thumbnail analysis, I was just like, right, okay, found two industries that are basically the same and haven't changed, and that's picking fruit. Picking fruit hasn't really changed. You still go around, you put the fruit into the basket, you carry on, and you get paid however much a day. Well, it used to be one dinar or one mina? No, 1 dinar it must have been. A day. It wasn't much, but you know, that was like a day's work picking fruit. And if you roughly approximate it, that meant that basically a slave cost the same as a sports car, something like £25,000 to buy a slave. It's actually cheaper to hire third worlders to do all of this work that a slave would have done, and it comes with none of the problems. And I used to talk about, like, I've done in videos where I've talked about the United Fruit Company, now known as Chiquita, I think it is, that literally went into Guatemala, bought out their government, and then bought up half the land. Like, that's what happens when you have a fucking corrupt government. It's shit. And that's what happens when you have a predatory multinational corporation. This is why I'm not neoliberal. I don't think the free movement of capital and people is a good idea. These things seem designed specifically to destabilize nation states and cause massive problems. I think that these things need to be talked about in a serious way. But the free movement of goods and services is beneficial for everyone. So let's do that. And in the meantime, we'll just do that, and then we'll figure out what we need to figure out. But sorry, I know I'm going on. I can't even remember what your point was now. Sorry, you carry on.
There's no denying that. And I'm not opposed to criticizing them or the regressive left whatsoever.
Good. No one should be opposed to criticizing anyone. But there's criticism, and then there's calling someone... Like, I wouldn't... I posted on Facebook the other day, don't call Antifa fascists. They're not fascists. It's inaccurate. It's not any... I mean, it's not just demeaning, but it's just wildly inaccurate, and it gives cover to their actual ideology. You know, you should try to be as accurate as possible. And this is a well-received Facebook post. Calling us SJWs just is really inaccurate. You can say, oh, they're conservatives. Okay, well, I mean, I can see why, from the position of someone quite far out on the left, that they would look at the way the sort of centre liberals are sort of moving towards the centre, right? The left liberals are moving towards the centre and saying, right, well, they're right-wingers, they're conservatives now. I can look at that and go, okay, from your point of view, yeah, I really believe it does look like that. And it's not necessarily an illegitimate accusation. But calling us the new SJWs is ridiculous.
But where I draw the line is when people call themselves liberal, and probably are liberal, but have
these madmen, go on.
Have audiences that are dominated by idiot conservatives and Trump supporters.
You don't know who their audiences are actually dominated by. I am always consistently amazed with the diversity of my audience. I hate saying that because the word diversity has become so bloody polluted, but you don't know. It's you. The thing is, right, when you comment on a video, and I'm guessing this is how you've come across this or made a video yourself, right? You get a sort of self-selected segment of the audience. The left-wingers who agree with you don't come and complain about the video you do in regards to the thing. It's only the people who are part of the group that you're thinking of who come to you and give you the mistaken impression that that's representative of the entire audience. And I know this from long experience doing this. That's the only way I know this. And I've polled them. You know, I've polled my audience. I know what their political affiliations are. Maybe I should do another one, actually. It's been a while. But, and I honestly think that what you're seeing is just a kind of a bubble and a more sort of isolated and local version of what you're talking about.
And who only ever seem to take the side of the right when it comes to the issues that they talk about. The biggest...
That's because we're talking about issues that the right aren't necessarily wrong on. I mean, I don't really want to have a conversation with the right about abortion. You know, I know I'm not going to agree with them on that. I know where I stand on this. I don't really want to talk to them about religion. I can't imagine more played out conversation than having a discussion with Ben Shapiro. So does God exist? I believe he does. I don't believe he does. Well, how is the universe made? I don't know. Therefore, God. Because that's basically what they all boil down to in the end. And it's just like, no, we just both don't know. That's the answer, really. You know, all of this just comes down to nobody really knows. And it's another dull thing. But that's not the problem. You know, they're not the problem. The Conservatives aren't the ones shitting up the public dialogue. I mean, watching, like, the guy who did the Walk Away campaign, going on Tucker Carlson, you can tell that this guy is still 100% liberal. I mean, he seems like a real lefty, you know? And he's just like, Tucker, I just can't stand the SJWs. I can't stand what they're doing to the left. I would rather talk to centre-right people because at least they understand the concept of civility. Even if we don't agree, we can at least we can discuss the ideas and the principles together. And I think the left can genuinely win on that. Like what I would call the 2008 Jon Stewart left, that I still feel the Christopher Hitchens sort of left that I still feel that I belong to. Then yeah, this is the confident left that can actually deal with ideas. My God, I think that we can have these conversations with the Conservatives and beat them on their own terms, as we did early in the late 1990s and early 2000s. We've had these conversations with the right. The Conservative right are not scary in this way anymore. But we can't have these conversations with the far left. Or the far right, really, but the far right are going nowhere because the far right have been utterly discredited. The conservative right are okay. The lunatic collectivist right, the socialist right, are not okay, but they're never going anywhere. But the socialist left are storming around the place. Thank fuck that they are so unhinged and that they can't help but lose elections. Sorry, I know I'm going on, but there is so much here that you're just...
Example of this is Sargon of Akkad,
Oh, here we go.
who has climbed his way to the top of the now rather overcrowded community of anti-SJWs.
Dude, I just make videos. I make videos, I do what I think I want to do, and I do what I think that my subscribers might enjoy. It's not a formal organization, you know? People just watch videos that they enjoy.
And maybe he truly does believe in a lot of liberal ideas, but the
Maybe. Just fucking maybe.
thing is, he never talks about them.
I've done this, bitch! I have a series called Liberal Ideas. I have an hour-long fucking video called Illiberal Progressives that I actually tweeted out today to the walkaway hashtag because it seemed relevant. Right? I did this fucking years ago. Just because you're late to the fucking party and haven't bothered doing your fucking research, I suppose I'll have to start doing them again. Well, you know what? It's actually quite convenient that I have plans in the works to do something along those lines. But I guess you won't like it because it'll be branded as UKIP.
You can hold both liberal and conservative beliefs at the same time, but when you only ever give voice to one side, I have to question how dedicated you are to the liberal values that you claim to uphold.
I founded a group called the Liberalists. We're doing remarkably well. Lots of us have joined UKIP and have been partly responsible for the kind of flood of liberals into the party and making the party in the news again. The Liberalists also organised the protest for Count Dankula. It was quite amazing. 600 people on a Monday morning in London, then another 200 in Scotland. 800 people in total. That's a really great protest for a guy who is basically a shitposter. I'm just saying, how committed am I? I mean, what the fuck do I ever do? You know, it's not like I did, like a half-hour presentation. It was probably longer than that, actually. Probably an hour-long presentation. How the progressive left have failed ideologically. They've collapsed in on themselves. Their arguments don't make sense according to their own rules and rely on liberal axioms to actually underpin the whole thing, the bedrock of them. But hey, what kind of commitment do I have to my ideals? Sorry, you carry on, son.
Because when the issues that you discuss and advocate for prop up the non-liberal side to the point where we have Donald fucking Trump in office,
Yeah?
as president,
Right?
you can't say that this is a liberal movement anymore.
All we can say is we're out of fucking options, buddy. I don't know whether you've noticed, but there is literally not one politician on the left that has the balls to stand up to the moral authoritarians of the far left. Not one. Donald Trump, however, doesn't give a shit. Oh my god, that is such an important fucking characteristic. To never bend the knee to these people. Go and ask fucking Notch. He'll tell you, right as rain, exactly what I'm talking about. You do not bend the fucking knee to these people. And Donald Trump doesn't, and therefore, he is our guy because he's the only one who's going to get something looking like a populist system working. A system that's not an elitist system, which, incidentally, the left has become very much in favour of. I mean, I'm well in favour of Donald Trump reducing immigration. I think immigration is doing serious damage to Western countries. I think that is completely in line with my liberal principles. And even if it wasn't, I would have to fucking accept it because it's reality. The real world is dictating that this is happening. So you've got to fucking square that somehow. And thankfully, I can call myself a nationalist. There's nothing globalist about what I want. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, that falls completely in line with my own liberal principles. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding annoyed, but this is just like... It's myopic. It's myopic, man. Yes, Donald Trump is the best we've got. Bernie Sanders cucked. I was happy to support Bernie Sanders. But when he was there, calling white people... Oh, white people don't know what standards people want. And then just holding him... I've just been cucked by Black Lives Matter. Fuck off, Bernie. Fuck the fuck off. Not only you're an idiot, I could live with an idiot... I can totally live with a fucking idiot. If Bernie Sanders had come out and said, right, listen here, I don't like identity politics, we're not going to be doing it at all, anyone who mentions it is fucking fired, I would have been like, here's my Bernie hat. Would have been happy with it. Because Bernie's not a fucking socialist, he's an idiot. I told people, like everyone, I got a bunch of the right wingers going, but Bernie Bernie's a socialist. Nah, he's not. He's just an idiot. I can live with an idiot. As long as he's on the right track, I can live with an idiot. But anyway, Donald Trump's our man, I'm afraid, and until someone better comes along, he's the best we got.
And if it isn't a liberal movement, that's fine, but then stop calling yourselves liberals.
It is a liberal movement. Just we live in the real world. What do you want?
Legitimate liberal issues aren't even mentioned in this community anymore.
The community is basically a free speech community. So it's about the idea of free speech, the very pillar of liberal democracy. How on earth can you suggest that?
Because the audience is so conservative that it just wouldn't fly.
Okay. When you say conservative, right, if you talk about it from a political science perspective, conservatives are liberals too. They're classical liberals. We're both classical liberals. We agree on the same axioms. It's down to interpretation. And there's a split between the two based on who really you think that these things should serve in society. And it's all about interpretation. I mean, if you ask a conservative, like, this is the thing, Bill Maher was like, I don't even know what Republican positions are. Yeah, he doesn't. You know, you don't talk to these people. If you talk to them, you realise that they actually want to solve poverty. They want to solve these things. They just think it's done a different way to the far left. And the problem with centre-left liberals is they've been listening to the far left for so long and assuming that it would be an easy win, an easy fix to the problem. And I don't think it is. I actually don't think that's the case.
Where is the condemnation of Trump, of Breitbart, of these completely idiotic and illiberal and dangerous ideas and people that are riding the wave of anti-SJW sentiment?
Yeah, okay, well, I've done that myself. More than once. I mean, like, I got some good press after doing an event in California with Milo, because I was the one who shut him down and, like, rebuked him on the idea of just attacking Muslims as a group. You know, I mean, he'd been previously saying that he was annoyed that the left was performing, like, you know, ascribing guilt by association, and then he was doing essentially the same thing. We can't just go after Muslims as a group. That would be terrible. It would be bad for us to do this to them, especially those who are basically Muslim in name only, and there are lots of them. But we need to start actually being able to talk about these things to be able to separate the kind of secular, in name only, identitarian, perhaps you would call them. They not even identitarian necessarily, but like they cling to the identity of Muslim because it's part of their heritage, but they don't necessarily politicize it. From the conservative Muslims who we can just call Islamists, but if we say they're right-wing Muslims, I figure that might have more of an impact on the left. But they're the ones who are like the Islamist Muslim identitarians who want to push this as a controlling force within society, rather than it just being an aspect of their own personal identity. And that's something I think that is genuinely, not only is it the morally correct thing to do, but I think it's also the politically expedient thing to do, because you are just going to get completely stonewalled with just the Islam is bad. I mean, even if morally you don't care about what I think about that, you know, you're obviously your own moral sovereign, you get to choose what you consider to be moral. But even if you think, fuck it, I don't care if I'm hurting innocent people, it ain't going to happen. It's just not politically feasible. It's not going to happen. So you need to be a lot more realistic about what you're trying to achieve, just for those people. I know I'm wandering off the subject again, but this is just like there's so much here that's being unsaid that it needs to be said.
When was the last time half of these YouTubers criticized any other religion besides Islam? Because whenever...
Fucking hell, bitch. I don't give a shit about any other religion apart from Islam. I don't even criticize the religion of Islam, really. I mean, all religions have got their shitty areas that you would never implement in a liberal democracy. I'm concerned about the physical and political damage that Islam is doing to my country. Christianity is dead in my country, man. Church attendance is like 6%. And it's not like maybe it's worse in your country. Maybe it's worse. But I've been to your country, I don't know, 5 or 6 times now. And I didn't really see that much Christianity, in all fairness. I mean, maybe there is in the schools or something, but even then, given the way the schools are going, I'd be more amazed if it wasn't left-wing SJW nonsense that was more of the problem in the schools. But hey, I guess we should go on about Christianity. That's not something Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and the rest of the horsemen did during the early 2000s and absolutely demolished those arguments. I mean, can we move forward? Can we finish off the SJWs, please? Before, like, okay, assuming we are all like the new SJWs, right? Let's assume we are. You know we're not as powerful as the SJWs by a mile, right? We've got them beat on the arguments. Every time they come into contact with an anti-SJW, they end up getting reamed, and it's not good for them. You know, we've got some very nice viral videos that have gone around. There's a great one by Kate Andrews I've been planning to make a video on. But they're getting smashed, and that's fabulous. We need to do more of this. We need to continue finishing them off. Actually put the stake through the heart of this beast, because otherwise it will come back. And you're not in favour of them, so let's just get on with it. Come on, fucking hell.
Whenever someone tries to, or expresses even moderate liberal sentiments anymore, they get downvoted and disliked to hell.
It's because you don't understand what's going on. That's why. It's about you, it's not about actually preserving these principles. That's what it is.
And exhibit alpha for this is Thunderfoot himself, someone who used to be the poster boy for the skeptic community, the slayer of Anita Sarkeesian. He's essentially disowned the community and been disowned in turn.
Yeah, but that's because Thunderfoot decided to side with the establishment. The establishment is what is corrupt, or was corrupt. I mean, it still is corrupt, obviously. But the establishment is what's doing this to us. He was a Hillary supporter and a pro-Remain supporter. Both aspects, both influences in politics in general across the Western world that the popular movements consider to be derogatory, and with good reason. Like, Hillary Clinton was totally open borders, man. Totally corrupt. A threat to the political system itself and the continuation of the sort of corporate hegemony that was going to happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Donald Trump's going to smash that, but it starts with being able to have certain conversations that are being inhibited by the people that Donald Trump is demolishing. The same EU and Brexit is a completely similar story. The idea that, like, we should just stand by and let the EU erode the sovereignty of our nations and just allow this to go on, an undemocratic institution. And Thunderfoot, he's in favour of these because he's a lefty and he's sort of a traditional, like, Sam Harris sort of lefty, and he's directly financially tied into the European Union. Of course, he is establishment in that way. He's just against identity politics. But this isn't a one-dimensional fight, unfortunately. And he was the one who started some shit and basically lied. Like, he did this to himself.
Now he only posts science videos and doesn't even talk about politics anymore.
Yeah, I actually watch his videos again. To be fair, he's actually been doing some great science videos. I have really enjoyed them.
And for what? Because he dared to criticize Sargon for joking about the murder of a feminist YouTuber?
I didn't. I specifically didn't. And I didn't... he wasn't criticizing me. If it was criticism, people would probably be fine with it. It was the lie. It was the deceptive editing to make it look like I told the joke or I was laughing at a joke that I didn't laugh at. But again, it doesn't matter. It's all about narrative, isn't it? That's the thing. It's not about what's really happening. None of this is about what's really happening. This is about ideology.
Less than a day after he had died? And even though...
Well, after a male feminist murdered... A male feminist we were familiar with and adversarial to, who had been attacking us constantly under the guise of us being misogynists, apparently, shot and killed his female feminist girlfriend. Yeah. Can't imagine what the irony that we might have been laughing at there is. I mean, I know it's a big gauche, but we weren't exactly doing it over the phone to her mum or something.
He was 100% correct about the entire situation.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Thunderfoot's audience turned on him, made up every bullshit excuse they could muster.
Why would they do that? What if Thunderfoot was correct on all of this, why would they turn on him?
To defend their precious god from Akkad.
I think he did this to himself. I don't think it was really that much about me. I think it was about him doing this inappropriate thing. I mean, you know what? If he'd said, look, man, I thought I was pretty lowbrow, I'd have been like, yeah, that's why I went and did off V's channel. I'm sorry, V, I didn't mean for that shade. But you know you like doing drama stuff. I wasn't trying to throw shade. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, he's acting like, did I put out a video on my main channel, just me laughing, ha ha ha? No, and I didn't even make the jokes. And in fact, I started with, we shouldn't make jokes about this isn't funny. But there's nothing wrong with a bit of dark humour. Fucking calm down, honestly.
And again, Thunderfoot was 100% correct.
No, he wasn't. Carry on.
What Sargon did was not only disgusting and
Oh, I'm... Right, you're going to morally shame me too. Okay, carry on.
bad taste, but showed just how far the anti-SJW community has fallen, into becoming just another identity in identity politics.
Okay.
When you go from criticizing ideas to making fun of a man who just died just because he was a feminist.
You don't know what happened, do you? That's not what happened. A man didn't die. A man didn't die. The man is a murderer. Are we allowed to mock murderers? I mean, is that... Why are you in defense of the murderer? Just out of interest. I mean, I think it's acceptable to mock bad people, but that's because I guess I'm a mean-spirited old white man or something like that.
This is tribalism. It's not...
No, it's because we knew him. He was a prick on the internet. To us specifically, calling us misogynists. And lo and behold, he shoots a woman. Like a good male feminist, I guess. But hey, I've never shot a woman. I don't think I'm ever going to shoot a woman. No Me Too charges against me, are there? Moral outrage, come on.
Rational discourse, it's not free thinking, it's not skepticism.
Okay, it wasn't. I agree. It was just us having a bit of a shitpost. Completely guilty as charged.
It's partisan politics, it's identity
It wasn't political. We were just laughing at the guy for being a dick.
politics. It's everything that anti-SJWs used to be against.
I don't agree with that it's any of those things. It was a laugh. But, sorry.
But again, when you reach a critical mass, any community becomes a giant circle jerk.
Sorry, yeah.
And the so-called skeptic community is no exception.
Who fucking named it that? I just consider myself to be a liberal YouTuber, and the people I speak to have varying political opinions. Honestly, I don't know why we don't just call it the political community on YouTube and just include literally everyone in it. I mean, if you were to look at it like the political sphere of YouTube, if it were to all understand itself as being political influencers, and united behind certain things, like Article 13, for example, where were the lefties complaining about this? Where was everyone else? It was just the Anti-SJWs who did any work there, and thank fuck we got the first fucking stage of it knocked down. We're the only people doing the fucking work. What the fuck are you doing? You're criticising us for not being like you.
Just today, I saw a video titled, "Amazing Moment. Trump puts Marine's hat back on after it blows away." It's an amazing...
Okay. I don't give a shit, dude.
moment, people! Tell me this isn't partisan.
Yeah, it's called Based Patriot. It looks very partisan. Probably a Proud Boy supporter, I would suggest.
And YouTube is filled with this kind of incredibly transparent propaganda.
Okay. It's filled with incredibly transparent SJW nonsense. It's filled with it's filled with all the mainstream media. It's filled with everything. Everyone fucking uses YouTube, dude. What the fuck do you... And what are we supposed to do about it? How dare Based Patriots put up video, amazing moment, Trump puts Marine's hat back on after it blows away. Which really makes him look like a twat, doesn't it? What a wanker. What are you even complaining about?
I mean, hundreds of channels that are just clickbait pro-Trump and anti-liberal.
Yeah, there's loads of that. They have their own websites, I don't know, like Gateway Pundit and stuff like this, just right-wing, partisan sites. There are loads of them. They're not necessarily very trustworthy either, just like the left-wing partisan sites.
The anti-SJW movement was supposed to be a movement by...
Who the fuck is in control of this? Who the hell is Based Patriot? Why are you dragging me into what this guy has done on his YouTube channel? I don't know who the fuck that is. I've never seen that before until you brought this up. Dude.
And for disenfranchised liberals. But more and more, it's becoming dominated by conservatives, or at least conservative ideas.
Dude, I think it's just people who oppose SJWs come from all stripes, all walks of life. That's what it is.
So to all the anti-SJW YouTubers who jumped on the bandwagon, but who honestly care about liberal values,
Jump back into SJW-ness?
Say this. You cannot be conservative on every modern issue and cultivate an audience of conservatives and claim to be a liberal.
Oh God, I don't care what you think is liberal. You know what, I just don't give a shit. I mean, would you actually call yourself a liberal? Alt-left? Well, I don't know what the actual ideology of what the alternative left actually is, but I assumed it was like old school Marxists who weren't intersectional feminists. That's what they seem to be from the ones I talk to who have even mentioned anything like that. Like, fuck you. You're not liberals either, is what I'm saying. I don't take what is and is not liberal from socialists. I actually had a guy with a black flag on Twitter telling me that I wasn't a liberal according to his standards. Good. I hope so, because if that was the case, then I'd be in favour of Marxism, wouldn't I? I am one of those liberals who is resisting Marxism. A liberalist, if you will. Go on.
Either start talking more like a liberal and challenge your audience, or just come out and say that you're on the right. I really don't care.
I don't care where you think I am on the political compass. Carry on.
But stop calling yourself liberal.
No, because liberal is literally the political science term for the philosophy we follow. Liberalism is what we are doing here. These are the values that we support, regardless of the contextual party politics of the day. The values do remain the same and constant, and you can interpret them however you like in the context of the moment.
While acting in such a way that people who you don't agree with feel like they have a friend in you.
Okay, dude. I'm not saying that... Okay, maybe I am a bit harsh to socialism on Twitter. But I'm actually quite friendly with quite a few sort of socialist left people. Like, you know, the sort of traditional working class left, I suppose you could call them. Even though these people aren't necessarily working class. I just don't talk to them about socialism, and they don't talk to me about socialism. But we can talk about anything else if we want. But it's the ideologues that are the problem. There are loads of people for whom socialism is basically a religion, like Owen Jones, in fact, the previous video I did. Like, he's an insufferable cuck, and I'm not having him dominating the political discourse. Whenever he comes near me, I'm just going to be against his ideas because he's terrible. But if you don't want to be terrible, you don't have to be. You know, you don't have to call people names, for example. You don't, I mean, it's such excessive worrying about this shit. Is it really important?
This is Death to Stupid, signing off.
Okay, man. Well, you know, I'm sure you'll do a response video. Maybe I'll see it. And, like, you know, what, we can just go on a live stream or something and talk about these things. But I don't care what, like, the far left or anyone on the left thinks is or is not left. I mean, like, the left-right dichotomy is such a pointless endeavour at this point, and in fact has been part of the problem. The concept of the left-right dichotomy is what has allowed the progressives to usurp liberalism. That's the problem. The fact that we just say we'll use these labels to describe policy positions rather than values. And so this is anyone with overlapping policy positions has been able to claim the label liberal, even if they arrived at these policy positions by totally different methods than the liberal arrives at theirs, which also comes along with various other axioms that end up with Ocasio-Cortez saying, well, everyone should be employed by the government if they don't have a job. It's like, holy shit, dude, that's called fucking servitude. Like, that's No, the government shouldn't be employing anyone beyond the necessary number for the bureaucracy it runs. Like, the government it's not the government's job to give you a fucking job, and if you think it is, you're a socialist, not a liberal, and now we have to have an actual conversation about the core values on which we disagree, because they are massively different and completely incompatible. However, if you're approaching these problems from a social liberal perspective, where you say, right, okay, property rights, free speech, all these things, you know, like anti-discrimination, all these things are really useful. What can we feasibly do that isn't going to start attacking various other segments of the population because they don't deserve to be attacked? But you can't, because you have to assume that the other people are being oppressed by someone else. But, I mean, you can look at any billionaire, look at like Mark Zuckerberg. Who's he oppressing? Like, who's like, you can't say, or the worst you'd be able to go, oh well, he banned some conservative outlets on Facebook. Exactly. He's not got people in sweat mines fucking mining the likes or something like this. He's just fucking wealthy because he's successful, not because he's exploitative. And again, this is liberals versus socialists, but I'm sure I'll speak to you in the future.